This is our review of the BinBok Pro Controller Alternative. Is it any good? Let's talk about it. Welcome to 128KB, my name's Andy, and if you're new to the channel, go down there, hit that like and subscribe and share this video about, because it really helps us out. So yeah, BinBok sent us 2 of these Pro Controller sort of replacements or alternatives, whatever you want to call them, to do a review on. And yes, they did send them to us for free. However, I'm under no obligation to sort of be swayed with my opinion. So I'm going to be completely honest with what I think about these. And also I want to let you know straight away from the word go that we will be giving away the black version of this controller, not the white one, but the black one, to one of you lucky lot. Information about the giveaway will be at the end of the video, so make sure you stay tuned. So let's get straight to it with all the features and everything. And these are really feature packed. There's a lot going on with these controllers, and I really like that because they are affordable. Again, we'll go over the price later on at the end of this video. But anyway, so it is a wireless controller. That means you can actually play it wherever you want without it being tethered via a cable. It is a fully wireless controller. It has rumble, so there's actual rumble in it. We're going to go over all of this like in more detail, but this is like an overview. So wireless, it's got rumble, it's got a turbo feature, so you can change the turbo, and that basically means that when you hold a button down or if you set the turbo, it will rapid fire that button as many times as you want. It's also got RGB LEDs that shine through the sort of cracked design that you can see as well. And it's also got gyro, so it is actually got 6-axis gyro so that you can actually motion control with these controllers, which is very, very cool. And one of my favorite features, which is so simple, but a lot of third-party controllers don't have it, is the wake function. So that means that when you hold down the sort of home button on the controller, it will actually turn on your switch, which is brilliant. You don't have to go and turn on the switch. Let's say it's docked. You don't have to turn on the switch first and then like pair the controller or any of that rubbish. You can just press and hold the home button and it will launch the switch up, and the same goes for turning it off. When you turn the switch off, it just automatically powers down the controller as well, which is really cool. So that's the sort of like features overview. Let's crack on. So design-wise, just having a quick look at it, I really like this controller. It feels really nice. So the build quality is actually quite good. The kind of plastics that it's made out of, I really enjoy it. Like, it feels nice. When you hold this, you don't go, ugh, like that's tacky. If you haven't seen our sort of first impressions unboxing video, then you can see my like live reaction, if you will, in that video there. But yeah, the actual paint on the controller on the front, that like cracked process, is almost like a slightly rubberized feel, and it's quite nice. It gives it texture with that cracked design. The back is just solid plastic, but it's actually quite a nice plastic. There are no grips on it though, so it's not like textured in any way. It's just a smooth plastic, but it is quite nice. One thing that I did notice straight out of the box, which I really liked, and I continue to like it the more I use this controller, is the sort of extended triggers. So the ZL and ZR have like these extended triggers. They sort of flare out and up at an angle, and that's so comfortable when you're using it because your fingers just rest on that, and I really actually quite like that. The only downside, and the only downside really with the sort of design here, is that sort of cracked paint design, and that is because that sort of paint goes all the way around the insides of the joystick housing and also the button housing as well. And if you saw our first impressions video, you'll see that our white controller actually basically didn't work because this paint was too thick around the Y button, and that meant when you press the Y button in, it just depressed and you couldn't use the Y button anymore, which is a real shame. The black controller we are giving away doesn't have any issues with the sort of like buttons sticking or anything like that, but the paint still goes right up to it. Now, I did fix this, so I actually did another video. If you've missed it, go check it out. I think it's called Fixing a Sticky Bucket. button. Come on, Andy, fixing a sticky button. And yes, I did a video where I tore this controller apart entirely. I completely disassembled it and then I fixed it by sanding it away, but you can watch that video anyway. But that's the kind of main downside there. Moving on, we have RGB LEDs inside, and it's not a nice sort of even diffused look. You can kind of see all the LED placements underneath, but it is still quite nice considering this is just like an aesthetic option. And I do like a little bit of RGB, I must say. But you know, you can turn it off, which is good. But there is a dedicated button for that, and that's on the bottom right of the right joystick sort of area. There's like a triangular button, and this button lets you do multiple things. So you can have just solid RGB LEDs on in a solid color like blue, red, yellow, orange, purple, that kind of thing. And you can cycle through these colors just by pressing that button in the bottom right. But there are more options as well. If you press that button twice, then it will turn the LEDs off, or you can actually have an array of effects, really. So if you press that button and then A, B, X, or Y, that actually gives you different modes. So one of them is a breathing mode, and that will just pulse the sort of RGB LEDs in and out. And if you press that button again, it will cycle through the colors. So you can have your favorite color just pulsing in and out of that, you know, of that color, which is pretty cool. Then you have a rumble. So basically the RGB LEDs are off until the controller rumbles. So when vibrate comes on, then it will light up, which is kind of a cool feature. You've got gyro as well. So gyro actually sort of, you know, when you're moving the controller in the 6-axis gyro, the different sort of areas that you move it to will light up different colors, which is kind of a cool feature. And probably my favorite one is joystick mode. And that's where you press the joystick in any direction and then it will light the RGBs on, but it's not like an on and off. It's like a very like nice, smooth, consistent turning on, as if you're using a dimmer switch. It's like barely comes on, but the more you press it, the more bright it comes. It's very, very cool. I really like that idea, and it comes across very well as well. And I like the fact that you can turn them off, because the controller does look cool even without any RGBs on. So if you don't like RGBs, well, that's going to save you some extra battery, because obviously you're not lighting them up. Luckily, it is LED technology, so it will only take a small amount of power to light them up anyway, but there you go. I'm pretty sure you can actually adjust the brightness as well. And if I'm remembering correctly, you hold the RGB button down and then you move the joystick up and down. I can't remember, but there you go. I didn't bother changing the brightness really. I just kind of left it on full because I liked it. Next up is turbo, and this is quite a handy feature, especially for games like Animal Crossing, where there's a lot of tedious actions where you've got to keep pressing the same button over and over and over again, whether you're like picking up flowers or like hitting rocks or whatever. This can come in handy. So there's a little T button down on the bottom on the left hand side of the right joystick, and basically what this does is if you press and hold that turbo button and then press, let's say, A for example, well then when you hold A, it's going to repeat A until you let go of A. So it's press and hold and it will just spam that button multiple times, and it's really handy. If you press T and then press A again, well then this time it's just going to spam that button whilst you're not even holding the button down, and when you press the button it will stop it. Now if you press T and A again, well then that cancels out the turbo, and there you go. And that can work with any button on the joystick. You just press T and then press any button or trigger you want, and then that will create turbo. And you can change the speed as well. So there's 3 different speeds. So if you press the T and then the plus or the minus button whilst turbo is activated, well that's going to go from maybe like 5 presses a second to like 10 presses a second to I think 20 presses a second. So there's a lot of input that you can do with that. It's really easy to use. I quite like that feature as a bonus. It's not something I use often at all really. I prefer to just play games normally, but with Animal Crossing it's certainly something that I would do because it gets very tedious. So next up is the rumble. Now we actually saw the rumble packs when I dismantled this controller, when I pulled it apart to fix that sort of button issue. You saw that the rumble packs were in there, and I have to say the rumble on this for a cheap budget controller is actually really good, way better than I was anticipating, because we'd reviewed the BinBok Slim Joy-Con replacement sort of alternatives. We've got videos on that, 3 videos on that if you want to check them out. And whilst I really like those Joy-Cons, the rumble wasn't that great and it was quite noisy. The rumble in this is much better, and I think it's because they've got bigger bigger rumble packs. It's still a little bit loud, but not as noticeable as the Joy-Con versions. But you've got like 3 different, or well, 4 really different strengths. So if you press the turbo button and then up or down on the D-pad, you can basically turn rumble off. So there's no rumble at all if you don't want it, which will save you some battery life. Or if you press up on the D-pad, I think it's about 25%, then 75%, and then 100%. 100% is way too much for me. 75% is what these come like out of the box with, and that was perfect. And I actually completed the whole of Bowser's Fury using this controller just to like test it out and give it a really good run, and it was great. Like there's a lot of rumble that goes on in that game, and this controller felt really good. Like the rumble was really nice, it was consistent. It's not HD rumble like the Pro controller or the Joy-Cons official Nintendo versions, but it is a very nice rumble, and I was quite surprised because I thought it wasn't going to be very good, but I actually kind of liked it. So it does have 6-axis gyro as well, which again is really nice because there's some games like, I don't know, let's say Mario Galaxy or whatever, you know, there's certain games that you need gyro for, and third-party controllers, well, they just don't have it really. We've got a Power A controller that Christina uses, which is wired, and that's got no features at all. It's got no rumble, it's got no nothing. It's just a controller, right? And there's games, I think even with Mario 3D Land, we were playing that, and Christina couldn't use the gyro abilities because the controller just didn't support it, and that really was annoying, so I had to do it all with my Pro controller. Whereas this has got gyro, and the gyro worked absolutely fine. And I also, whilst we're like covering this, want to say that the wireless is absolutely fine as well. I had no dropouts. I was a little bit worried because it was wireless, and I was thinking, how stable is it actually gonna be? But no issues at all. Obviously I didn't go miles away from it. The furthest away was probably from like the TV to the sofa, and that's probably only about 2 meters away. But you know, if you're like close to it, at least I had no problems whatsoever. No dropouts, no cutouts, no freezing, no stuttering. Everything was fine on that front, and the gyro worked absolutely fine as well. Okay, now I know a lot of you, this is what you're waiting for, because in our previous videos of the BinBok, sort of the Joy-Con versions, everyone was saying, talk about the Deadzone, talk about the Deadzone. Well, we're gonna cover that now because this section is talking about the joysticks. So the joysticks, they're actually a really nice design. They've got this kind of like comfort groove on the, like in the middle of them. They kind of like dome in, almost like a little bit like a donut or like some sort of mint. Like they just kind of look like that to me, but it feels really nice. They're covered in like an almost rubberized texture, and around the edges there's actually tiny little sort of like spikes. I don't know how to call it, you know, there's kind of like spikes around the edges to give you grip, and honestly I really like this. Christina really liked this as well because again her Power A controller just has plastic thumbsticks, and she's constantly complaining that they're too slippery when she gets like sweaty hands when she's too intensely gaming, and she didn't have that problem with this, and she said that to me. She said, I really like the control sticks because they don't get sweaty and horrible, and I have to agree, I've really enjoyed the joystick feel, like the actual design of them, which is nice. And yeah, so the one thing that I wanted to note, when you use them, if you flick them left and right, they do return to the center as well, which is nice. They're not like off center or anything like that. Now, Deadzone wise, okay, so Deadzone, I'm going to be showing you now the sort of joysticks on the Nintendo Switch in the calibrate mode, and I'm going to show them compared to the official Pro controller as well, so you can actually see what these are like. And I was really surprised by how responsive these joysticks were. I didn't have any issues. You're seeing exactly what I've tested, but I didn't have any issues with it at all. When you press that joystick in any direction, it registers. There's no like move it 30% before it starts activating. As soon as you touch that, it just goes, and you can see between the actual, you know, the BinBok one and the Pro controller, you can see they're very responsive. The only thing I kind of noticed was that there might have been like a millisecond delay on the BinBok one compared to the Pro controller. Seemed to be absolutely instantaneous, but the delay in like action hitting the Switch, I don't know if it was just some sort of placebo effect or if it was my mind playing tricks on me. Well, you'll probably be seeing it in the video right now, but I felt like there was just a little bit of delay, and that will be down to the wireless technology that they've used in the controller. So I still give the point to the Pro controller, the official one, for being more accurate. But in terms of actual accuracy, the controller responded absolutely fine. There was no dead zone. I would just say there's maybe like 1 millisecond delay of input on anything. But in use, I didn't notice that at all. And like I said, I completed the whole of Bowser's Fury, and I tested other games as well with it. But with this, didn't have any issues at all. Every time I pressed the button, every time I moved the joystick, everything worked as it was. Now, again, this could just be down to these two controllers that we've been sent. Others may vary, but I'm pretty confident that they're much better, you know, than some other alternatives out there, to be honest. Next up is the D-pad, and this is something I was a little bit sad about on the Joy-Cons, you know, the slim Joy-Cons that BinBok made, because the D-pad on that wasn't very good. It was a bit mushy, it was a little bit firm as well, but this one, wow, I'm impressed. I am impressed, seriously. It's concaved in, so it feels really nice under your thumb, and it is the perfect amount of pressure to actuate those areas on each side, and it rolls really nicely. It returns back to position straight away. It's got a nice pivot point in the middle. I'm just a real big fan of this, considering it is a budget controller. I expected the D-pad to be the worst, because usually D-pads are hit or miss. They're either really good or they just suck. And this one is actually really good considering the price point. Again, I would still say the actual official Pro controller D-pad is much nicer, but considering the price point of this, which we'll go over at the end, this is really good. It is good. Okay, so buttons and triggers. So I was really happy with that extended trigger design. Like I said, it's just so comfortable. It really is. I wish they put those on the Pro controller, because it's just really nice to use. I really enjoy it. But the feel of them, brilliant. Like, all the buttons on this controller are consistent. They're not like some of them are clicky, some of them are mushy, some of them are like a little bit firmer. Nope, not at all. I've been super lucky. These ones just feel great all over in terms of the triggers. And the same goes for the buttons. So the plus, minus, home, screenshot button, the turbo button, and the RGB button are all really nice and proper clicky. I like that a lot. And then the face buttons, the X, Y, A, and B, they're not proper clicky. They're like very slightly mushy, but not in a terrible way. Like, they're absolutely fine. They're not as good as a Pro controller again, but they are quite nice, and they're consistent within each other. So each one feels exactly the same, and that's what I like to see, is consistency. Now, playing games and stuff, again, didn't have any issues with this at all. They returned absolutely fine. But I do have to say, like I mentioned at the beginning, and I mentioned in the previous video, that the Y button on this white one came stuck. So when you pressed it down, it just depressed, and that was because there was too much paint around the housing, and that meant I had to actually, you know, dismantle it. Like I said, we did a video where I took it apart and I fixed it by sanding it down. So there is a possibility that this will happen. I did contact BinBok, and they said that 98% of customers basically are absolutely fine, don't have an issue. And if anyone does have an issue, then to get in contact with them, because they will do their best to sort the issue out for them. So that's quite a nice response. It's nice to see that they are actively saying, you know, we don't usually have issues, but if we do, then, you know, just let us know. But, you know, I haven't been down that road, so I don't know how they would actually respond, but it's nice to hear that they said that. Again, this one, once I'd sanded it away, absolutely perfect. And the black one that we're giving away, even better. Like, this one's much nicer. But again, they could fix this issue simply by doing a better paint process. So I love the design. I think it looks great. I really like it, and I like the RGB that shines through too. However, they could fix this issue, and they could fix the other issue. So this is kind of like what could be better. There's two things. The buttons, not the actual buttons themselves, but the housing, the painting around it, they need to like masking tape that off and not paint it by like a millimeter around it. Or when they dip the like cracked process on it, they need to basically have something that plugs up these holes to stop them from getting paint on the inside, because that's what's causing the issue. And the other thing is around the joystick edge. The only bad thing about the joysticks is that you can feel that paint. So I forgot to say this in the joystick section, but you can feel the paint as you move the joysticks around, and that's my only like major down point here, because over time, the more you use it, this paint will end up coming off, and all that sort of paint dust is going to get into inside the controller, get inside those joysticks and potentially ruin the joysticks, because it can cause drift by causing, you know, dust and debris getting inside the actual unit, and then that can cause drift. So that is a potential downside, and that's something they definitely need to work on. But you know, they could just fix that by not painting around the edges. If there was no paint around the edges, that's not going to happen. And what I'm going to do to fix this myself, but again, if you're not into modding stuff, then this probably isn't for you. But after this review, what I'm going to do is take this apart again, and then I'm going to heavily sand away the paint around the joystick areas and around the buttons again, just so that that issue isn't a possibility. You know, that's going to be completely eradicated, and then the controller is going to be absolutely fine. So the last thing is price point. So in America, in USD, in US dollars, these are $32.99, and in the UK, it works out about £24.50 for these controllers, and that's without shipping. But you know, for the controllers themselves, around £25, that's a very good price. I do have to say, even with the issues that they have, it's a very good price, because the actual official Pro controllers are around £60 new. Yes, you can find them on offer for around £50, and if you can afford that, go get a Pro controller, because the Pro controller is really, really good. I love the Pro controller. But if you're on a budget, or you just want a second controller or whatever, maybe you've got kids and you don't want to give them a really expensive controller, this for £25 is really good. It's blown me away, to be honest. I would probably pay like maybe £30, something around that ballpark. So for just under 25, I highly recommend this controller for that price point. But there is that big but, is there's that issue with that you could get a sticky button, and over time you could get drift because that paint's going to end up wearing off. So, you know, I want to recommend these. I really, really do, because I do like the controller and it worked really well. I love all the features that you get like inside this controller that you often don't get with other third-party controllers. So this is a really good, like, strong controller. But just those couple of issues really like are sad for me. But if you can look past that, or if you want to watch our other video where I took it apart and showed you how to sort it out, if you can do that and you're comfortable doing that yourself, then definitely get one of these. Now let's move on to the giveaway. So to enter the giveaway, go down there, hit the subscribe, like this video, and comment. It's all about the comments. So make sure you're subscribed, but comment down below in this video and just comment whatever you want. It can be anything you want, but you know, just you can say, Andy, we love you, if you want. You know, you don't have to, but you could. But if you want extra entries as well, then down in the description and the pinned comment, there is a link to Gleam, and that will give you extra entries. So we're going to compile all the entries and then pick a winner from that, and the winner will be announced on Sunday the 13th. I'm pretty sure it's the 13th. Let me check. Yep, it's the 13th. So Sunday, February 13th is when we will announce the winner, and we'll put it all over our social media, so Twitter and Facebook, and we'll do a post on YouTube as well, like the community tab post saying who the winner is, and we'll try and get in contact with you as well. So make sure you enter, go down there, subscribe, make sure you comment and enter via Gleam for extra entries. But anyway, this is the BinBok Pro Controller review. I hope you've enjoyed it. Hopefully I've covered everything that you've wanted to see. If you've got any more questions or whatever, just go down there and let me know in the comment. But yeah, anyway, make sure you subscribe just in general, because we've got so many more controller videos and other stuff coming for the Nintendo Switch. But yeah, thanks for watching. See you next time. Oh, check out our website, 128kv.co.uk. I'm Andy. Bye.